Let's start. I'm Vincent Duclert. I'm the director of Raymond Aron Center for Social Political Studies at EHESS and National Center for Scientific Research. I'm deeply honored to open this colloquium led by two members of CESPRA, Laure Assayag, who represents the junior research, and Luc Fouaneau, who represents the senior and also junior research, with a determinant contribution of a scientific committee established with Anne Bazin, Samia Ferhat, Emmanuel Picavet, Julie Sada, Christian Tudorose. Here we are at the Advanced School for Social Science, where teaching means working permanently into the research field, creating and supporting individual and collective research, like the colloquium we opened this morning for 2 days of work, talks, and shared reflection. In fact, colloquium is a space, it's a perfect space for compromise. Its subject, the subject of the colloquium, focuses the question of global ethics of compromise, which is a philosophical subject, but revealed by social, political, historical uses. The three main topics of the colloquium: compromise standards, culture of compromise, global governance and compromise, express all the interest of the global ethic of compromise. This is exactly the scientific duties of Raymond Aron Center for Sociological and Political Studies, to join philosophy with social science, to make philosophy as a social science. What Luc Fouaneau did since a long time in his seminar, more than a seminar, an intellectual and scientific network. One last word before giving the leadership to Laure Assayag and Luc Fouaneau. And it will be my pleasure to follow their presentation. After that, I will be very sorry not to be able to attend to the different panels. My last word is about the condition of studying global ethics of compromise. Compromise and ethics of compromise are not natural. It implicates a will of compromise, which is deeply a political, social, and moral act among the societies and the nation. Let's give this last word to Elie Halevi, philosopher and historian, a very close friend and colleague of Raymond Aron, who gave his name to our center. Elie Halevi, honored by Oxford University for delivering the annual Rhodes Memorial Lecture, and in 1929 he studied the world crisis of 1914, 1918, and he concluded precisely his lecture on this issue of willing compromise for establishing Nations League after the First World War. As he said, fanatism of humanity face to fanatism of nationality. Let's quote Elie Halevi. Now I see that millions have been ready during the great world crisis to give their lives for their respective countries. How many millions? Hundreds of thousands, hundreds. Would even 100 be ready to die for the League of Nations? Well, this is a serious matter. So long as we have no involved a fanatism of humanity strong enough to counterbalance or absorb the fanatism of nationality, let us not visit our sins upon our statesmen. Let us rather find reason for excusing them if they occasionally feel compelled to submit to the pressure of our disinterest or fanatical emotion. Thank you again, Laure, Luc, and all the colleagues who accept to move here for these 2 days of colloquium at the École des Études en Sciences Sociales. Laure, it's now your time.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Vincent for his welcome, and thank everybody also for coming. We do hope that your arrival was fine and that you will be in good conditions to start our discussions today. But I also wanted to thank the administration of our center, which has been doing a great job just to allow this event. Sophie Vigneron, Benjamin Moelik, who you have already maybe met, who will be there also if you need any more precisions, details, and help during your 2 days. So thank you, Vincent. And now Laure is going to give some lines of introductions concerning the theme of our conference today.
So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with us this early morning. In 1971, Bernard Manin, Director of Studies at CESPRA, alongside Alain Bergogneau, published a book entitled Social Democracy or Compromise, analyzing the already criticized alliance between the labor movement and the employer's power. What has changed since this book, since the 1980s? Social democratic compromise is nowadays becoming even more problematic. The rise of populist and nationalist regimes, the agonistic theories of deliberative democracy developed by Chantal Mouffe and other philosophers that criticize rational consensus on behalf of a dimension of democratic political system that would be necessarily agonistic, and also European divisions accelerate fragmentations and confrontations. So many questions that we took for granted are now opening up again. The whole array of liberal social democratic ideas are under pressure. Yet, in a climate of tension and exacerbated political conflicts, the notion of compromise rebounds and is everywhere present, everywhere summoned. Compromise is often defined as a settlement of differences by mutual concessions, a process as well as an outcome. But what compromise is it possible to achieve when moral and ethical values are seen as incompatible and incommensurable? Objects of praise for some, presented as a virtue and a necessary negotiation in a society where conflict is inherent, vilified by others as a betrayal of the most basic moral values, it is somewhat and remains a grey concept, presented as the antithesis or on the contrary as the seeds of democracy. So these current events and the urgency of compromise are the reason triggering this need of this symposium. The omnipresence of compromise in the political, moral, cultural areas is reflected by the breadth and the variety of your contributions, the different perspectives proposed by 11 international researchers from America, Asia, and Europe. Because outside of bargaining theory in economics, social sciences largely neglected the term until 2010, when came out the major book on compromise, Compromise and Rotten Compromise, written by Avishai Margalit. Since then, an extensive literature on compromise was produced, mainly within political and moral philosophy, and normative political philosophy, rather than in political science and history, creating almost a subfield of what we could call compromise studies, asking what norms mark an unacceptable political compromise, how demanding it is, what are the links between democracy, peace, justice, and compromise. Is compromise synonymous of splitting the difference between parties, of consensus, tolerance, modus vivendi? Is it a moral betrayal of deeply cherished value to achieve a long-term goal? In a nutshell, what are the criteria for a fair compromise? A lot of attention has been paid to its normative underpinnings, but a lot less to its practices. This is why the aim of this conference is to promote a dual approach of ethics and a practical philosophy. It will refer both to normative political philosophy and comparative politics. We hope that this slippery concept might appear to us more embodied and seizable. And we also hope that the prism of Asia and America will provide the French audience with thoughts and analysis that often remain confined to cultural areas. If we have decided to focus on specific areas, it is less for thinking about some what could we call cultures of compromise, than to decompartmentalize disciplines rejected too often in the categories of cultural spaces, and to think about what could constitute an ethics of compromise on a global scale. But beyond the variety of contribution comes up the question of how to build a plural and common world, how to make differences, disagreements compatible, and incidentally, is compromise the solution to ensure peace and prosperity? What are the objections countering compromise, and are they legitimate? Is compromise of use for creating a sustainable justice framework for preventing, for example, the ecological crisis? And how is it linked to different understandings of political and self-representation across the Channel and around the world? This conference therefore proposes to introduce you to a very experimental thinking as well, related to compromise and its rejection, both in a theoretical and practical perspective. The ambition is to try to put to test the multiple realities of this concept, whose meaning has changed over times and culture, to understand its relevance, its legitimacy or illegitimacy, to understand the moral complexity of different cultural and political phenomena. So I would like also to warmly thank my supervisor, Luc Foineau, as well as Vincent Duclert, and also Mr. Stefano De Rosso, directors of CESPRA, all the team of CESPRA, Sophie, Benjamin, and Elisabeth, as well as Jeanne Langaret of PSL Etudes Global, who have all provided a very continuous, patient, and sustained assistance for the preparation of this event. And we are also very happy to count on the honorary sponsorship of the Collège International de Philosophie, which is a very encouraging sign. It means that there is also a lot to explore, and that this conference is perhaps only a preliminary part of this investigation on the standards and practices of compromise. So I wish you, on behalf of CESPRA, PSL, and Collège International de Philosophie, an excellent and stimulating conference during these 2 days. Thank you.
Yeah.